Hey, this is Sasha, and welcome to another episode here on Backstage Income, where I share with you how to build and grow a profitable business. Now, today I'm going to share with you how to go about getting more views, subscribers, and also customers to your YouTube channel or even your business. So if we take a step back into the basic process of doing anything, you have usually a sequence. Anytime that there's a procedure, there's a sequence to get to that end result. And that's what happens when you're looking to get a customer, if that's your end goal, to make a sale and then have some money. You need a certain process or procedure that you go through to get to that stage. You don't all of a sudden just attain a customer just like that. First, they need to go ahead and see your video, then they have to go click through, then they have to watch that video, and then eventually they may build a relationship and finally purchase your product or service. If you take a look at going to the grocery store, it's not that you all of a sudden show up to a grocery store and magically there's a bag of grocery that appears in your cart or in your car. You have to pick out what is it that you want, whether you're ordering online and picking it up, or whether you go to the store and you're picking out the things you want, then you go to the checkout process, you pay for your items, you load up your car, and eventually you get home and you have groceries. So I want you to think about this as you're going through the stages and process of looking at your YouTube channel or your business. So if you're looking to build and grow, let's say the YouTube part of your business, you have to look at, hey, what's the first step that the customer is doing? What's the first thing that's happening? Well, the first step, usually, what happens here is, well, they need to search for your item. So when they do the search, is your listing popping up? If it's not popping up, then you got a problem in your step one, right? Makes it pretty simple. If you go to the next step, well, if you have a bunch of videos, the search results are showing your videos, but is anybody watching? Nobody's watching. So let's say no one watching. So what's the problem here? Well, it could be a click-through problem. So here, when you have this mastered on the search part, well, how about here? Well, is it a click-through problem? Meaning, how is your, let's say, thumbnail? Are your thumbnails catchy? Is your headline also catchy? Is it getting the attention for the visitor or the audience to click through? So you got step one, get those videos listed on the search. Step two, okay, get them to click through. Step three, well, now they're watching. Well, how about now? Well, are you getting their attention? Okay, so when you look at this attention part, okay, you're building the relationship, you're building that connection with them. Well, are you getting their attention to then go to the next step and procedure? So again, here, if you're looking at the attention and the viewership rate, here, if your video is not being viewed, well, then it's probably not interesting enough. Why is it that some people, watch movies for 2 hours? And, there's always a lot of talk about saying, hey, your video has to be less than 7 minutes long or 5 minutes long. Well, the fact is people watch 2 hours movies all the time. And I can tell you my investing videos, some are 40 minutes long. People watch those many, many times over again because they are interesting. And it's what people crave and want. So is it being viewed? If it's not being viewed all the way through, and maybe, if you look at the viewing bar, if it only goes this far out of the whole 100%, well, maybe it's not interesting enough. So you need to work then on your video part, right? So here's our couple of steps that we're going through. We have our first step is to get that video listed in the search. Step two, get people to click through into the video to watch it. Step three, retain their attention. And now we're going to get into step four, which is get them to create some kind of action. So we need them to take action to go into our website, into our form. So they need to do something. Now, if they're not doing what you're asking of them, right? So you ask them to do something. If they're not doing it, well, it's probably not as enticing enough. It's not as valuable Maybe they don't know you as much yet. Maybe they don't know how to do it. But this is how you build a YouTube sequence or a business sequence through YouTube, is through this procedure, through a process where you have step one. You have to get your videos listed. You have to get your website listed in search results if you're doing a blog. So if it's not listed there, well then how can anyone even do anything? How can they buy anything from you? Well, first you got to have the search. Once it's listed in the search, you got to get them to click through. If they're not clicking through, well, you know you have some kind of problem. Sometimes these things can play a little bit of a trick on you, because if you got a lot of search results and a lot of listings and people are clicking through, it may be that you're just doing so well in one that the other one gets masked. So you got to have all of these working together. So step one, get the search. Step two, if they're not watching the videos and you have a lot of good listings, well, they're probably, you got to work on your thumbnail, you got to work on your headline, you got to work on your description, something to get their attention to click through. Step three is the attention. If you see a drop-off rate in your videos, if you see a drop-off rate in your reading in your blogs, well then again, you're not keeping their attention. You need to work on the content piece of your video or your blog. And step number four is get them to take action. If you can get them to sign up to your newsletter list, if you can get them to download a freebie, if you can give them away something that they're willing to give you their information, such as email address, a phone number, something. If they're not going through that process, well, you either haven't built up enough trust, maybe they're not ready for it. That's also part of outside of your control. Maybe you're not giving something, valuable enough, catchy enough, or maybe it's not even related. So if you're doing YouTube videos about hair and you're giving away something about, let's say, a health food checklist, well, they're not really that related. Maybe you want to give away something that's hair related, because that's the audience that you have. But in either case, this is how you go about really building your audience base. This is how you get, the viewers right here, to then building them into a possible asset here, and eventually a customer. Okay, so they're here building a relationship. So relationship. So it all just takes a bit of time to go through this process for anyone, for any of your customers. And sometimes for some people, they do this all very quickly. It could be within the first search that they do. Other times people hit your video, it could be 10 times later, 20 times later, or 20 videos later. It could be a second time they watch the video, and then they may give you their information. So remember, it takes a different amount of time for someone to buy a car. Some people do it in a day, other people do it in a weekend, and other people take a couple months to really purchase a vehicle. But this is what you want to think about if you're not getting the views, the subscribers, if you're not getting the click-throughs, building an email list. If you're struggling with that, you got to think of it in terms of that process and procedure. And you can even break these things down into other little sub-steps from here if you like as well, and start looking at those. Where do they stop? What are the barriers to get them to the next step? All right, so thank you so much for joining me in this week's episode. I hope you found it helpful, insightful, and you learned a little bit more about how to increase your views, subscribers, build out your customer list, and that much more. And if you did and you want to see other great videos like this one, then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button right here, or get on the newsletter list going to this link right over here, or even in the description. And that way you get notified as I release new content, new books, even promotions and specials on any great courses that are set to come out in the future. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.